Good evening, fellow heretics. Welcome to tonight's show. I'm your host, Captain Dadpool. Unfortunately, I just discovered that my subscription to StreamYard has expired because I got a new debit card and I didn't put that information in there. So my custom backgrounds and my intro, I actually made a minute countdown and an outro just for today's show, and I can't use it. So I don't have my cool intro I usually show, but I do have a very cool guest that I'll just bring on the screen. How about that?
Hey, man.
Beautiful stock background that StreamYard has so kindly provided me with.
So nice.
Oh, man. How you doing, man?
Well, see, I'm doing well. So it's hockey season.
Oh.
I watched the first installment of the Battle of Alberta last night, and the Flames won. And this probably means nothing to you.
I don't know what that means.
Or see, yes, most of
you
your
seem
viewers,
excited about it, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, it was good. So, but yeah, it's been a busy week, but I love doing your guys' show. So
I'm glad to hear that.
When you
by the way, Natty Nat's going to be a little bit late, but she will be here, just so everyone knows.
Yes, don't panic.
Okay, yeah, I just gotta entertain you until she shows. She's usually the talker.
She's the entertainment.
But it's okay. Like you have your area specialty, your area of expertise is closer to what I know. Usually we have a scientist on. I'm like, there's not much I can say about anything, so it's all her. But you and I can actually go back and forth.
Yeah, we can chat.
So yeah, I wanted to start with you had told me earlier that how do you pronounce it? Scøyen collection?
Scøyen collection.
Scøyen collection.
Scøyen. Let's say it a few times. Scøyen. There you go.
It's
spelled and you can
Hoyen.
Yeah, and you can say Scøyen. In Norway, you say Scøyen. So, Scøyen. But it's a subtle thing. So, okay. And maybe even just to start this, so the Scøyen collection, is a private collection.
I was gonna say, yeah, I actually have a.
Oh, do you have a thing? You've got his webpage handy to show.
Just I just put the
Google images stuff that he's got.
Yeah, some of the collections, pretty huge collection of artifacts, like 20,000 manuscripts.
Yeah.
How many of those are authentic or not remains to be seen, but
lots of them, honestly. Like he's got a lot of legitimate cool stuff in his collection. So, like for example, one of the I wonder if one of the things that he has that is really, really impressive is a large collection of Buddhist manuscripts, and I believe they are among the oldest in the world.
Really?
That he has, yeah. And then he's got a bunch of other things. So Martin Scøyen is just he's an old guy who loves antiquities and he loves the Bible. And he has a lot of money. And for many, many years, this is what he did with it. Is he just spent piles of money collecting, like rare books and artifacts, and not just antiquities either. He's got some really interesting, quite modern stuff in there as well. Like he's got original letters with original artwork by Beatrix Potter, who wrote the Peter Rabbit children's books.
Really?
He's got stuff like that. Yes, and this might be, in some circles, this might be, the crown jewel in his collection. He actually owns the draft copy of J.K. Rowling's first novel, the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone novel. Yeah. So
I wonder how much that lost value since her recent shenanigans.
Yeah, who knows? And yeah, poor if so, I mean poor Martin Scøyen, because it feels like more recently it's just nothing but bad news for that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Because one of the problems that I would encourage everyone to just stay away from collecting antiquities. It's just fraught with nothing but trouble.
There's no guarantee you're going to be able to keep it.
And yeah, it doesn't do anybody any good except for you. So if you're just an incredibly selfish person, yeah, go ahead and collect antiquities. But if you're not, and I expect most of your audience are, good-natured, not narcissistic people,
Bunch of hoodlums.
it's not for you guys. It's not. You have to think far too highly of yourself to be an antiquities collector. You just really do. So, what I'll start by telling the story of my experience with Martin Scøyen's and the Scøyen collection. And I think I've talked a little bit about this on your show in the past, but I went to Norway in 2012.
Here she is.
And oh, is Nat here? Hey,
Sorry.
She is here.
D&D ran a little, they shortened it up for me, which I really appreciate. So I was able to jump in early.
Wow. Nice.
I know.
D&D. Hey, I have never played Dungeons and Dragons before.
Well,
Really?
okay. That's a dangerous thing to tell me, because that just means I'm going to now add you to an online campaign. That's all that means.
Boy, can I there's more to this though.
Oh.
Start with a one shot. Don't add him to a campaign.
Oh, I wasn't gonna throw him into like a big thing. No, like 1 or 2 shots. That's
Okay. So my friends in high school, in junior high and high school, all played D&D because of course they did. I did not, because I was not allowed to play.
right.
And it was like
it was during the Satanic Panic, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. This was the 1980s.
Oh my God. That's when the classic art was out, and that's when like all the figurines were like really artistically done and like done metal or like pewter. Oh my gosh. That was
wow.
To the people that have those D&D sets that are from like the 80s that are like pewter and everything, I am just like
See, those are probably, some of those are probably worth something.
Oh, I imagine so.
Right?
I have no idea
So
how much, but yeah.
People should go collect D&D sets, not antiquities.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
D&D sets.
This is what you walked into, Nat.
Oh, we're talking about antiquities versus like artifacts and whether or not you should own them.
Like,
yeah, we're getting there.
Oh, okay. I like it. I like this. This is a good topic.
We're getting there.
Down.
So all that. So, but I have to say that I always felt kind of gypped that I didn't get to play D&D, because my parents were scared of Satan.
Oh.
I was pretty spooked of Satan too. But I always thought I'd be a really, really good D&D player, and I've always thought that I'd really, really like playing D&D. So
That's good to know. I may organize a little one shot with I mean, we could do it with Dustin, but I think it would be better if we did it with Charles. And the reason why is because Charles is also in the like he has much more experience with DMing, and he's really creative with making theistic or theistic themed D&D one shots. So I think he could do something that would be kind of fun for us. So that would be
I had an old coworker recently reach out and was like, "Hey, you play D&D, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Do you want to join me?" And he's got some friends. And like, we're in the middle of a campaign, and we need like another character to jump in the middle. I was like, "Yeah, sure." And this is the first time I played in person. So I went there, and it's in the comic book store. It's pretty fun. And so I made a character, and I'm a tiefling, which is a demon, and I decided on the spot to be a woke demon.
That's right.
So they found me on the road, but apparently, like, I used to be like part of the campaign, but I had like a different. I was possessed by something, and now I'm myself. And so, like, one of the guys, one of the like prior players was like, "You look familiar." I was like, "Whoa!" Right off the bat with the racism, we all look alike because we all got horns, right? I get it. No, that's cool. It's cool. That's fine. So yeah,
that's amazing.
my
I
character's a
love
woke
it.
demon.
That's awesome.
Anyway,
so where was I?
I have no idea. I jumped in and messed things up. This is normal.
It's all good.
You about to share a personal story of yours?
I'm sharing the story of my experience with the Scøyen collection.
Oh, right.
So I arrived in Norway in 2012, and the reason I went to Norway was to help with the publication of his Dead Sea Scrolls and artifacts, which we did publish in this book. So Gleanings from the Caves. Oh, there we go. Dead Sea Scrolls and artifacts from the Scøyen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's a big book too. It's probably much bigger than it needs to be, considering that I think it's the 14 fragments that are published in there are like tiny to begin with, and now I think most of them are forgeries, but yeah. So I went to Norway to work on this. I got to go to see the Scøyen collection and meet Mr. Scøyen on a couple of occasions, and I don't think he likes me very much. and I don't think he's ever really liked me very much either. So I know, it's, what are you gonna do, right? So but his collection, like, it's huge, and it's eclectic, and it's extensive. It's basically, you go downstairs and there's it's like a vault. Like, you walk through the vault door, and the walls are like concrete, and they are 2 feet thick. The room itself, I think, I would guess, was probably close to 1,000 square feet.
Oh my God.
Like, it's massive, and it's full. Like, it's lined on all the walls with bookcases. So, and the bookcases are full of, like, he's got a whole set on the one wall of like folios that he bought from the Vatican that are all like from the Middle Ages. And then I was just telling Brock that like, he's got a shelf with original artwork and letters from Beatrix Potter and original stuff from J.K. Rowling's. He's got a very impressive collection.
It's like not just a Buddhist singular manuscript. It's not a theistic.
No.
It's
extensive. It's a smorgasbord.
It's a buffet.
Yeah.
So a wealth of knowledge, and knowledge that is wealth.
That's right. So he's got these beautiful, like, these gigantic like, nobody does the codex quite like the Russian Orthodox do the codex. So he's got some of these just enormous codices from Russia,
with like the gold plating and everything.
Oh, yeah. And the illuminations on them that took like some poor scribe like 8 weeks just to do a single folio, right? So so this is basically the collection. And then in the center, he's got like museum cases that have artifacts in them. In one of them, I was, as when I wasn't working on the scrolls, I was kind of wandering around in there's pictures in the room there, because of course I was.
I mean, let's be honest. They put you in a room with a bunch of stuff and say, "Hey, look at these things." You're gonna look at everything.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna walk around.
Absolutely. So there's like, he's got a case, and it's got like regular bricks in it, and they have stamps on them, and I'm looking at it, and he comes by to talk to me, and he says to me, yeah, he says, these are like actual stamps of I believe it was either Nabopolassar or Nebuchadnezzar II. So this is like building material.
Oh my god! So these are like etching stamps, like from the. Oh.
Yeah. So and then next to that, he's got like stoneware. This is like the original stoneware that inspired the stuff that we bought at. But so he's got like some stone goblets that have you know, that have a stamp on them and are like gold embossed or whatever that is. And he
You're
says,
telling me he has the goblet, he has the cup.
He chose wisely.
He chose wisely.
No, not that one. Although I'm sure he's looking for it.
Oh,
I know about Scøyen's in the market for it, or at least he was. So he's it's what this stone goblet that he's got is he says came is supposedly part of the the palace holdings of Cyrus the Great. And I'm just like,
what?
But then you're like, how reliable is that though? Like,
right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, this is a really cool thing to have.
That's an important question.
But how do you know how reliable that is? Because, like, oh yes, this cup was once this seat was once sat upon by Solomon for 40 years. It's like, oh yeah, if he found the throne, great. So prove it.
Yeah. So I it's a little easier when the ruler's seal is actually
it does help.
Embossed on the object. Sure. And Scøyen is I mean he's slightly more sophisticated a collector than Ken Hovind is.
Right.
So
yes.
Only slightly.
So he works. I mean he works hard to ensure that the stuff that he's getting is legitimate. Although again, I think with the Dead Sea Scrolls forgeries, like that was a serious fuck up. So
big oops.
It wouldn't be surprising if it's happened more than this one time with him.
I mean, it's salesmen gonna be salesmen no matter how long ago it is.
Yeah, they are.
If somebody has seen that seal before from the king, who's to say that a good artist doesn't make another one in that same time frame, make some stuff, and it just happens to be put on a shelf somewhere to hide from the king, and then that stuff happens to be preserved, and then later on you're like, well, wow, look what we found, it's from the king. Right. But why would it be here instead of up there? Or it's still an artifact though, and it's from that timeline, so like, I mean, still really cool stuff. But
it's true. Yes.
Like, this is
so
it almost adds to the value when there's like a bit of mystery behind it. So
right. So all that, I'm getting now to what has always been my favorite of the artifacts in Scøyen's collection, and that is the Tower of Babel stele, which I don't think he named it. I think this was actually named by Andrew George.
You mean this stele? I should have been faster. You mean this? Damn it! There it is.
There you go.
You mean this stele right here?
This is it.
Comedic timing is everything, people.
And this is legit. This is so legit that recently, I think it's within the last year, the Iraqi government has actually come after Martin Scøyen.
I was about to ask, is that something that's tying into this? Because it feels like as a private collection, there's a lot of Mideastern countries that are like, oh, hey, Americans, we realize you have a bunch of our shit along with like the English. Maybe we want it back. Like,
so there's one of the television stations in Norway. I think that there's like two. So the one of them known as NRK actually did a documentary about Scøyen back in I want to say 2005, 2006. And it's a you should seriously look it up and watch it. Most of it is actually in English. So you can and it's subtitled too, so you can follow along. But they did this big investigative report on Scøyen and his this was in particular following controversies with some of his Buddhist manuscripts that he had, which it turns out were removed illegally from temples, I believe in temples in Afghanistan that were blown up by the Taliban.
Oh no!
Right?
Oh no!
And
using internal terrorism as a way to escape with precious artifacts. That gets deep. That gets really deep too.
It really does. So they, I mean, the whole situation is a lot more complex than this. But basically, the Taliban go in and they blow up these temples and these absolutely magnificent buildings and statues. They grab a bunch of the manuscripts and then sold them on the black market to help continue to fund their own regime of terror.
And of course,
Scøyen ends up with them.
Yeah. Of course, they know that that's a high value item, and there's no. I mean, there are ethics involved in it, but people that want things, they just don't. They'll look past how you got them as long as they get them.
When Scøyen was approached about this kind of stuff, he always would tell people, and for a while I was of the mind to think, he's got a point. What Scøyen would tell people was that he viewed himself as kind of a redeemer or a benefactor, where he bought them and then went to work finding scholars to publish them, to get them into academic discussion and to help to preserve them. So really, he's the good guy in this. He's the one who's saving Afghanistan's heritage and material culture from the Taliban.
I mean, as nice as that sounds
pretty good, right?
I mean, every good deed is done with some form of selfishness. So there is always an aspect to every villain that is they're the good guy before, they're not. It's a quick flip. So
yeah.
Not to say he's a villain by any means. I'm just saying, what is it? The path to hell is paved with good intentions.
Good intentions.
Yeah,
that's right. As I'm thinking about it, let me just read. I might have done this on another show that we did in the past, but Scøyen actually wrote a little bit, just a short little article in this book, which we called Acquisition and Ownership History or Personal Reflection. I think it's quite telling how he ends this off. So I'll just read a little bit of this. Where he describes his accumulation, his construction of the collection of Dead Sea. This is just the Dead Sea Scrolls artifacts that he's got. So he's describing the construction of his collection. And then he finishes with this. He says, at this stage, there should be room for a short reflection on what these biblical fragments do represent. Sacred biblical objects, such as the original tablets of the Ten Commandments or autographs of biblical books, have been sought in vain. They are the cause of legends, wars, and a huge body of literature. They are perhaps of too sacred a nature to be owned by any institution or person. The early witnesses to the Holy Scriptures published in this volume are as close as one can get to such sacred objects. They should be treated with due respect and veneration, both by their keepers and the scholars who handle them. I was just going to pause here because I always. So this is him kind of thumbing his nose a little bit at the scholars, going, just you remember your place.
You remember where I gave you things.
Wow, what a guy.
Just he's putting himself on a pedestal begrudgingly.
Very begrudgingly, yes.
He's begrudgingly putting himself on a pedestal. He's like, I have done all these nice things, just so you remember. I just want to let you know that. Like, normally this doesn't happen, but because I am who I am, you guys got a little something. Maybe I'll do more. That's
exactly it. So he continues.
It's so stupid. I'm sorry.
as their present custodian, the undersigned is privileged and honored not so much to own as to, for a very limited time, be their humble keeper, not based on my own collecting virtues, but soli Deo gloria.
Oh yeah, let's just throw some Latin in there. Just make it good.
to the glory of God.
Yeah.
So, but this is the mindset, right?
Oh my gosh.
And it's but this is kind of, I've spent a little bit of time, and I'm sure with every passing after this stream, nobody's going to talk to me anymore from the Antiquities community.
I mean, it's their own fault for writing that down. You're reading their writing. We're quoting them. I don't see us picking it apart so much as we're just like, hey, he said this.
Maybe that was a shitty thing to say. I don't know.
Maybe. Or maybe he is the good guy. Hey, maybe he's the good guy. Okay.
He's not a bad guy.
No.
I mean, at the heart of it, but I think he has been like many people have been so caught up in what they think they're doing in this passion that they have, that it causes them to maybe not take the care that they need to, and to do things that are actually hurting or damaging other people, other cultures. So it's this the Tower of Babel stele, which Captain Dadpool showed a picture of earlier. Bring it back up here.
Tower of Stele right here again with the timing.
Let's leave it up here for a minute. Can you click on go to that one? Grab that one. See if we can make that one big.
So we can actually pick it apart. I like this.
It's a beautiful object. It really is. And this is legit. It I believe Scøyen has been asked to return it because it
there we go.
It was looted at some point after the first Iraq War from a museum in Baghdad, I believe. So it was actually in Iraq for many years in the museum there, and it got stolen, and somehow ended up in Scøyen's collection.
Right.
So
we don't really know the background of how it truly got there, except
no. Just and that's the way this works. Is there's smart smart collectors kind of create this black hole of and smart dealers and smart collectors kind of create this black hole of between, you know, the point of discovery, the point of excavation, and the point of ownership. All that stuff in the middle has a tendency to get blurred, and obfuscated. So, you know, something that that we saw quite a bit when dealing with the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Dead Sea Scrolls forgeries, and the post 2002 Dead Sea Scrolls like fragments, was this common trope from the dealers, who would say this comes from a private collection, usually in Switzerland or in Germany or in Holland.
Right.
It comes from a family collection. The family wishes to remain anonymous.
That's
you know, but this is where it was. This is from where it was obtained. So, and by so doing, right? I mean, they're not really. There's not any information there to be. There's nothing there. You can't. You know,
are there any like worldwide UN laws regarding the passage of artifacts that we should adhere to, or at least know on a common basis?
there
Don't.
absolutely
I may or may not be
is.
leading into something, but I wanted
There
to know if there was something you
absolutely
wanted to say.
is. So, and I know this only so far as it applies to the material in Israel, but basically the UN conventions, and the problem with these things is because it's the UN, I don't think any of these are actual laws, right? These are like things that nations all agree on in principle, and we've written it up in a convention, a UN convention. We've published these statements. We strongly encourage everybody to abide by them. And a number of individual countries do make laws on the basis of the UN conventions. Israel has passed laws on the basis of the UN conventions. The way it works in Israel is that anything that was purchased, anything that was removed from the country prior to 1972 can remain in private collections, but anything since then has to be returned. It belongs to the state of Israel. I mean, I'm sure you can see the very convenient, easy workaround here, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This has been in my family for ages. There's no way that it's. I'm sorry. Was that too obvious? That was too obvious. I can lighten it up. This was found back in the 1800s, but we never knew about it until it came to light here in America.
It's been here this whole time, and we only just knew. Yeah.
Whole time.
Yeah. So, you know, this is how it works, and this is why, like with, I'm not just talking about Scøyen here, but other private collections that I have.
This is not just a one person. We're picking on him, but honestly, he is like the lesser of the evils that we hear about. Like this, the fact that he came out and was open about this is extremely. It's either extremely open and honest, or he got caught and chose to do this over something else. But I feel like he's trying to be, you know, better in this case. There are others that are a little less so.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, the London Museum of Antiquities is one of those greater of evil types. Like they're studying it, but like, you know, it's all in private hands, so they're like, oh, the paperwork's too difficult, we can't give it back, sorry.
Hey, did you guys see that? I was super happy about this. Was it last week or
the SNL? Was it the
John
SNL
Oliver
skit?
No.
Oh,
John Oliver did a
yes. Oh yeah, it
dedicated
was
a main
Sorry,
story.
yeah, that's the John Oliver
Yeah.
skit where he's like, "It's ours now, but you should come and see this."
It was very good. He did a great
It was
piece
great. Like we should
on
play
the
it.
British
It was
Museum.
but
So
it was pretty incredible. I'll just send
people
you the
should go
link.
watch
It's
it.
really funny. We should just post the link below whenever we're done with this, because like that particular sketch was phenomenal.
It's good. It's very good. So, but I want to talk a little bit though too about why I love the Tower of Babel stele. Yes, it's tragic because it was looted from the from Iraq, and hopefully it will be repatriated to Iraq soon. But nice. This is a remarkable artifact because it preserves. One of the reasons it's remarkable is because that image that you see there of the figure on the right is Nebuchadnezzar II. And this is a remarkable artifact because there are only 4 images of Nebuchadnezzar II, and this is by far the best one. It's the clearest, and so that right away, that's just super cool.
It's very, very tall.
I mean, we did talk about how there were giants in the. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I'm spouting pseudo facts. Don't listen to me, folks. I can't
people understand that perspective was something that was actually invented, right? do people get this?
No,
and it wasn't invented that long ago.
No, it's there were giants, people. No, the pharaoh would be depicted as a bigger person because he's the center of the attention for this particular mural.
Yes, but I'm fairly confident though that people were understood that Nebuchadnezzar was not that tall.
I mean, I generally hope that's the case. Not always the case.
But that's one of the cool things about this stele is the image of Nebuchadnezzar there. The so to the left is 2 pictures. On the bottom is the profile view of the Etem and Enki, which is a ziggurat, a prominent ziggurat in Babylon. It's very old. It possibly dates back to the period of Hammurabi. Nobody's quite sure. But it was raised by I think it was either Sennacherib or Ashurbanipal, Assyrian kings. They sacked they destroyed it when they sacked the city of Babylon, and then one of their a descendant, Esarhaddon, I believe, actually went to work to restore it after some time. So he started, restoring this ziggurat. It didn't get very far because the funds, the money, the treasury, the Assyrian treasury was required elsewhere to stave off all these other kingdoms who were starting to assert themselves more aggressively. So this is back in the 8th century, and then Nebuchadnezzar II's father, Nebuchadnezzar, is actually the Babylonian king who overthrows their Assyrian occupiers, and he's the one who establishes what we now call the Neo-Babylonian Empire, and he starts to just spread, and basically through his son, Nebuchadnezzar II is leading the forces of Babylon out, and basically just taking over territory that had originally belonged to the Assyrians. Nebuchadnezzar starts himself he embarks on continuing these renovations to restore Etem and Enki, but he doesn't finish the job either. He passes away. Nebuchadnezzar becomes the king in Babylon, and I believe in 590 BCE. Sorry, is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. In 590 BCE, he finishes it. He finishes restoring the structure. It's 7 stories, and it sits at a height, I believe, of 91 meters. For you Americans, that's about 300 feet.
What?
It's massive.
We use meters.
We will literally use everything but that system. How many meters is? So you're saying you said 900?
91. 91 meters.
Yeah. So what is that, like 7 elephants?
Right.
7 elephants.
I'm sorry. I'm just having fun. Go on. No, continue.
Oh, you are. Yes. So
2 blue whales and a kangaroo.
Yeah. A stretchy kangaroo.
Kangaroos are super stretchy.
They are so stretchy. They make the best cloaks. Anyway, don't ask how I know that.
Okay.
Anywho.
So, but the awesome thing. So this is pretty cool. Now, I just need to pull something up here, so that I can get this right. The super cool thing about actually, if you guys can just give me a minute here. Sorry.
I'm not sure there's I know there's a way you can.
That was the most Canadian thing I've ever heard him say.
Amongst
you guys
yourselves.
Give you a minute here. Sorry. I'm sorry. I have to poke fun.
That's
that
right.
was amazing.
I wish I knew how to give you the permissions to put your stuff up on the stream.
Right.
I'm not sure. I feel like there's a way you can do that. I've just never done it.
Oh, I could totally, I could walk you through it. I'm actually pulling up something to read, not to show.
Okay. Well, if you want to show
so
something,
I'm going to read a couple things here. So the first thing I'm going to read is oh, if I can find it, where is it here? So yeah, this is Nebuchadnezzar. In his own inscription, this is how he describes the work that he did on Etem and Enki. He says, "At that time, my lord Marduk told me in regard to Etem and Enki, the ziggurat of Babylon." Oh, by the way, the translation of Etem and Enki is the foundation platform of heaven and earth.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
nothing too serious or anything.
No, but this is, I mean, this is what ziggurats are basically, right? People understand this. A ziggurat is a and the reason they're so tall is because the idea is that that the top of it is the meeting place, where you connect with the gods who are up there, right? So this is you get up as high as you can. And I guess the reception's better. I don't know. This is This is the place. This is the place where the divine and the humans they meet. So he says, in regard to Etem and Enki, the ziggurat of Babylon, which before my day was already very weak and badly buckled, to ground its bottom on the breast of the netherworld, to make its top vie with the heavens, I fashioned mattocks, spades, and brick molds from ivory, ebony, and something called musakanu wood.
Thank you, Vaguely.
Hey, there we go, man.
Don't hate the
and I set them
as bad as I do.
Nice. Nice.
I set them in the hands of a vast workforce levied from my land. I had them shape mud bricks without number and mold baked bricks like countless raindrops. I had the river Arachtu bear asphalt and bitumen like a mighty flood. And this is there's a few things I think that are really interesting in here. One of them is that he's molding bricks.
Yeah, that's somewhere.
And he's baking them. He's baking bricks because this is something that was not done with every construction. This was part of I believe it was a fairly recent innovation, like within the last several hundred years that
yeah,
they were
initially
doing
it was
this.
a lot of cut rock type things.
It just they would make bricks with molds and dry them, right?
Which
And they
is
would
still
harden
used, but like, you know, on bigger scale now.
There you
Once
go.
they figured it out, it was good.
Yes. So there's the baking of the bricks. He also talks about using asphalt and bitumen as a mortar. The other thing that he mentions in here is that he says that he mobilized a workforce from within Babylon. So it's basically just a local. It's the people of the city or the country of Babylon. You know, slaves and indentured servants and people who were late paying their taxes and stuff. You know, he used in order to get the project completed. So this is his inscription, and as I mentioned, Nebuchadnezzar didn't finish. He didn't finish the job. It fell to his son Nebuchadnezzar II, and he completed the job. He finished the ziggurat, and then he erected this marker. It measures, I think it's about 3 feet tall, the Tower of Babel stele. And next to, just underneath those pictures, there's actually 3 columns of text. And the text itself, parts of it are really interesting. The one section that I really like is this one right at the start. This is what King Nebuchadnezzar has to say about his work on Etem and Enki. He says, "Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, am I. In order," and this is Andrew George's translation, by the way. "In order to complete Etem and Enki and Urmi Imen Anki," that's a mouthful.
Yes. Say that 3 times
Here he
fast.
says, "I mobilized all countries everywhere, each and every ruler who had been raised to prominence over all the people of the world, loved by Marduk, from the upper sea to the lower sea, the distant nations, the teeming people of the world, kings of remote mountains and far-flung islands." He then goes on to say, "The base I filled in to make a high terrace. I built their structures with bitumen and baked brick throughout. I completed it, raising its top to the heavens, making it gleam bright as the sun." So this was the theme of my last video that I made. It's all about this stele and its relationship. What the reason it's called the Tower of Babel stele, and I believe Andrew George was actually the one who coined the name for it. The reason it's called the Tower of Babel stele is because when you look at this description of Nebuchadnezzar's and the work that he performed on this ziggurat in Babylon, and you compare that to the story of the Tower of Babel, you see some really interesting parallels. One of the things I'll draw your attention to is you'll notice in Nebuchadnezzar's description of Etem and Enki, he talks about how he mobilized people from within Babylon to embark on this project. Nebuchadnezzar says something a little bit different, and he dwells on this. Right? What does he say? He says, "I mobilized all countries everywhere, every ruler, from the upper sea to the lower sea, from the distant nations, the teeming peoples of the world, the kings of remote mountains and far-flung islands," according to Nebuchadnezzar. And no doubt, this is an audacious exaggeration.
Yeah.
But I think the point is clear, though, and what he's trying to convey is that he has basically conscripted a workforce from the far reaches of the entire earth to come together in Babylon to build this structure. And of it, he says, I built the structures with bitumen and baked brick throughout. And then he says, I completed it, raising its top to the heavens, to the sky. That's actually a pretty common refrain in these sorts of descriptions from antiquity about building these ziggurats, about the top reaching to the heavens. But this is what we read in Genesis chapter 11. Here, I'm gonna try now actually to see if I can share my screen.
Yeah, go for it.
And then I'll show you what it says in Genesis 11. So you should be able to select. Hey, there we go. Infinity.
Whoa.
All right, I'm just gonna pull up. I'll pull up my Bible here, and I'll make this big so everyone can see the English. And then I'll just find the passage. This is all very impromptu, people. So
I say he sounds like Donald Trump. Like, everybody loves me. I built this tower up to the heavens.
Nebuchadnezzar.
The sun shines.
Yeah, man.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it before.
Yeah. Trump would have been, he wouldn't have been, but
huge.
He embodies the spirit. He embodies the spirit of the Mesopotamian monarch.
He does, though.
So here's the story of the Tower of Babel. This is let's go to something fun. Not NRSV is less fun. So let's go to Jewish Publication Society. That's more fun. Okay, can you guys read that? Is it big enough that you can see it?
Fairly.
I can't because the stream is little on my screen.
I can now. I blew it up.
All right.
Everyone on Earth had the same language and the same.
There we go. I can full screen it.
Yeah. All right. There we go. Okay. So you can read it.
Mm-hmm.
So here, let's look at what this says. The story is super short, so it's easy to read pretty much the whole thing. Everyone on Earth had the same language and the same words. And as they migrated from the east, they came upon a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them hard." Bricks served them as stone, and bitumen served them as mortar. And they said, "Come, let us build a city and a tower with its top in the sky, to make a name for ourselves, else we shall be scattered all over the world." So right at the outset, there's a few things.
Word for word.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but it's
no
very
word
close.
But
there's lots of overlap. And the one I think is actually really interesting is how this is the Tower of Babel is a story about I guess the strength of the unified peoples and how much of a threat that was to the gods, so they had to be dispersed, right? In Nebuchadnezzar's description of building Etem and Enki, this is precisely what he does. He brings all the people of the world together. In this story, it says that everybody migrated from the east and came upon a valley in the land of Shinar and settled there. So this is one of these themes that I think a lot of people miss when they read these texts. So the fun stuff. So Yahweh came down to look at the city and the tower that man had built. And Yahweh said, "If as one people with one language for all, this is how they have begun to act, then nothing that they may propose to do will be out of their reach." It's threatening. "Let us then go down and confound their speech there, so that they shall not understand one another's speech." And it's abundantly clear here that the picture is of a pantheon. This is the divine council. This is not just God alone. This is Yahweh along with the council of the gods, looking and seeing what's happening here. So Yahweh scattered them from there over the face of the whole earth, and they stopped building the city. That is why it is called Babel, because there the Lord confounded the speech of the whole earth. The word confounded there is balal, so it's a play on.
Clever.
Confounded the speech of the whole earth, and from there Yahweh scattered them over the face of the whole earth. So
Infinite me.
I'm gonna stop that. All right. So here's what I'll give you my take on this, and this is, you guys, anybody who's interested can go and watch the whole video that I made about this. But my take on this is that
Link in the description.
Oh, hey, did you do that already?
I put a link to your channel in the description. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah. So it's the newest video in there, but don't let that fool you. It's like 8 months old. I know. So, but
very good.
That's new for me. So, my take on this is that, and we have lots of evidence from this within the Hebrew Bible, in text dealing specifically with Nebuchadnezzar. One of the things that the biblical authors really focus on is his pride and his arrogance, and this is a feature. Like, this is a major theme. I'll just mention one thing quickly in Daniel chapter 4.
Yeah, you mean, I was about to say, you mean like Nebuchadnezzar in Daniel? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And this is probably I think this is probably one of the more detailed stories about Nebuchadnezzar, and one of the most detailed treatments about Nebuchadnezzar in the text. In Daniel chapter 4, he's wandering around in the city in Babylon, admiring everything that he's built and talking about what a magnificent city this is. Truly, I'm, the greatest of all the monarchs, and this is I'm just such a great guy because look at what I've done, right? This is how this story begins, and as a result of Nebuchadnezzar's pride, God has to come down and humble him in order to show him, his
that's
place.
The only way to serve me is to, make sure everybody's humble. That's
know your place.
Know your place.
That's right. So this is the way that the people who wrote the text, when it came to Nebuchadnezzar, this is the prevailing image. This guy was just full of himself, and it pissed the biblical authors off to no end.
I love it.
So here's what I think is going on. Remember, he erected this marker in 590 BCE, and this takes place right between the time of the first exile of Judeans and the second exile of Judeans from the city of Jerusalem to Babylon. There were two. The first exile, I think, took place in, I might get this wrong, it's either 593 or 597. And the second one takes place in 587. And right in between there, he finishes this ziggurat. So I like to think, and there's no way to prove this, but here's what I like to think happened. I like to think that there are these Judeans in exile from the first exile in Babylon, watching Nebuchadnezzar basically go and stomp the rest of the known world. Watch him, build this magnificent city beautifully and quickly. And it's just success after success after success with him. And the Babylonian Empire is becoming dramatically more powerful in just this short period that they're even, just cooling their heels there. They're watching all of this happen. They see him, restore this pagan temple. They see the things that he says about it. Now, I don't know, maybe there was something that looked like the story of the Tower of Babel in their texts that they took with them to Babylon, but I have to think that what Nebuchadnezzar was doing, up to 590 BCE, had a profound impact on them, to the point that, these are details, I think, that crept their way into the text. So So that's
So do you
that's
think
the Tower of Babel stele.
Do you think they, in dealing with Nebuchadnezzar or Nabonidus or whoever he was, looked to the story of the Tower of Babel and maybe built off of that?
Sorry, can you say that again?
Like he compounded that widespread story in order to build up himself.
Were they like watching this guy do all this stuff and they're like, hey, this is exactly like what's happening in the Tower of Babel in Genesis. Of course, it probably wasn't Genesis at that point. So do you think they took that as like inspiration and like drew upon that and exaggerated some details?
I think there was something like it there.
Yeah.
In the first place. Just because of the way that I reconstruct those first 11 chapters of Genesis, well, basically the beginning of the Yahwist portion of that text.
It's an earlier tradition.
Yeah, but there's a you can see there's a running theme in that story. One of the running themes in that story is this this movement out of the city. I think this played a very important part of this. And I think this is in large part, because of what's going on in the Epic of Gilgamesh. One of the things that's happening in the Epic of Gilgamesh is one of the features is how the civilization of Uruk is kind of the goal, right? It's the goal of the story, the conclusion and the climax has Gilgamesh. The story starts with him walking around the city and measuring the walls, which is an ancient way of saying, he's taking a look and admiring his handiwork, right? It starts that way. And then the story ends the exact same way. It ends with Gilgamesh, again, walking the city of Uruk. So really, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, you could say that it's the city of Uruk that is the protagonist. Like, it's the city. It's the urbanization. In the Yahwist account, what happens is, Yahweh builds this beautiful urban masterpiece. And that's what the Garden of Eden is it's an urban garden. Like it's a manufactured garden. This isn't the wilderness by any stretch of the imagination.
It's not supposed to be.
This is like an Edwardian garden or a Victorian garden that the kings of England used to spend piles and piles of money on to build, right? So it's an urban garden. It's an urban masterpiece, and the movement is away from there. The people end up leaving Eden. Cain, who's the first murderer in the Bible, is also the first man to build a city.
I also learned something about Cain the other day. I learned something about Cain, and please forgive me for this. It's a dad joke. I learned that Cain was in fact a little bit constipated because he wasn't able.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Is that like the ancient equivalent of like, I can't even right now? Like, he's just like, I'm not able. I can't with this guy. This guy with his sacrifices and pleasing God. I can't with him. Can't even.
Anyway, sorry. Bad dad joke of the day.
That's all good. That's all good. So, but there's a movement through Genesis through these early chapters of Genesis, which is almost the opposite of what's happening in the Epic of Gilgamesh. And then in chapter 11, you've got the people, gathered all together.
I am so fired.
You are.
Currently looking for
I don't know. I mean,
in fact, I have more. These are jokes that were told by nuns, so I have to say them. They were great.
Wow.
Anyway, I'm listening, Dr. Giff.
So
Good.
In chapter 11, you've got the people coming together and building this city. The city that ultimately is, their plans are obfuscated by Yahweh, and they're dispersed. And then in chapter 12, Abraham is introduced, and one of the key, what does Abraham do? Abraham lives in the city of Ur, which is probably Uruk, and he leaves, and then he spends the entire rest of his life wandering around in the wilderness and never settles. And in fact, the story, there is a story of settlement in this cycle of Abraham, and it's the story of Lot, who goes and settles where? In Sodom. So it's all like this. There is this very strong anti-urban theme that kind of runs through the Yahwist portion. And so all that to say, I think that like the Tower of Babel story fits neatly in there, and I think it does predate the exile, but the very, very long way to answer your question. Yeah, I think the Nebuchadnezzar stuff had a huge impact on how this story ended up looking after they were there for a little while. So
wow.
But that's fun. That's Bible.
This stuff is so much more interesting when you're not reading about it in Sunday school.
Right?
There's just so much more going on in the text than you hear about in church.
It is just much more cool.
I never thought of it that way though. Like yeah, there is a very anti-urban like agenda. Like wandering is the way. Moses wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Yeah, Adam and Eve leaving a garden that is clearly distinguishable from the wilderness. And then Abraham being anointed by God or called by God to be his prophet, and then spending the rest of his life wandering. And Cain, like you said, is the first one to start a settlement,
to build a city.
The first guy to commit murder.
Nimrod builds cities, and he's generally looked down upon. In the biblical text.
To this day, we use the term Nimrod as equivalent of an idiot. It's like, you Nimrod.
as an idiot. Is that what we call dumb people? I'm like I call, maybe I've been doing it wrong. I call people who I think are terribly wicked Nimrods, or I used to, but maybe it's am I doing it wrong?
Maybe
Nimrod's always like you're dense.
Yeah, like you are so fucking stupid. Like you're not like you Nimrod.
Wow.
Like that's always been.
That's how we do it here in America. We use Nimrod and we use
Canadian. You tell me lies. Wow, I didn't expect to have a cultural difference in this, but I'm actually I'm really
I'd never heard that
by it. What does your shirt say?
Oh, this is my Stranger
Things.
Nice.
It's the first season. That's awesome.
Yep. You recognize what that is, eh?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
the upside down. I just finished that a couple weeks ago.
It was good. I thought the fourth season was really good.
The fourth season was amazing. I'm so scared for the fifth season. Like, how are they gonna? The second and third season were okay, not terrible, but not as good as the first season. And then the fourth season was.
I agree.
Like, the fifth season better not be trash.
What an interesting thing. One witch lady says that Nimrod was dumb being dumb was brought about by the Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes. I don't know about Looney Tunes, but I could the term Nimrod was used a lot with Animaniacs. So
really?
Like there was Dr. Nimrod, right? Isn't that his name? The Doctor Nimrod.
See, this is where
is that right? Isn't that his name? Dr. Nimrod?
This is where your kids have lost me.
Oh no.
Because I was Animaniacs was after my time.
You missed out.
Yeah. I really did. I mean, I have seen
and Earthworm Jim and Freakazoid.
I don't know what Earthworm Jim is, but
oh my god. It's an earthworm that fell into a spacesuit. Or no, a spacesuit fell down, and then an earthworm crawled in a spacesuit, and then he got powers, and it was amazing. That's all you need.
That sounds pretty incredible. I feel like I grew up in the really in the doldrums of Saturday morning cartoons, because I got G.I. Joe and Transformers.
Hell
That's
yeah.
not bad.
And
Saturday morning cartoons, man.
yeah, but did you guys know this? I discovered this recently. There's actually a channel on YouTube that is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, G.I. Joe cartoons on a loop.
I did know that, actually.
Awesome.
There's a bunch of channels like that.
So, I have to. I one of my when I was in high school, one of the things that I used to do every morning, I had a buddy who lived up the street from me, and I used to walk to his house and then grab him, and we would go to the bus together. And then, but what we would do every single morning is before I would get to his house, I would watch The Mighty Hercules, which was on at like it was like on at like 7 in the morning, right? So I'd watch that, and then he and I would walk to the bus.
Wasn't
and
it
we'd sit on the
followed by
bus
like
together.
Warrior Princess? Like,
No. This is
the
do you not know?
Some of the animated
Do you
one,
not
yeah.
know
Yeah,
the animated, The Mighty
yeah,
Hercules?
I know about the animated one. I just didn't know if you were talking about like the
Kevin Sorbo one.
No. This is the one from like the 1960s.
There's an animated one from the 1960s.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to show this.
It was that weird teenage awkward one with
Pull it up.
I gotta show this now because it's awesome. It's so good. So, but we would watch Mighty Hercules, and then we would laugh our asses off on the bus all the way to school, because the show is just so, it's just so camp. So let's pull up one of these here. Okay, I gotta share my screen and I gotta pull these up because it's amazing.
This is great.
So
this is why it's called Nerds and Heresy.
We gotta nerd out on
you never
It's
know,
perfect.
man. You never know what's gonna happen.
Every time Kipp comes on this show, I have so much fun. And I learned so many things.
Here we go.
I've never watched this.
You've never seen this?
Can
you hear it?
No.
It looks like the start. Oh my God, it's the centaur.
Okay, I gotta fast forward here. Here's Daedalus. Daedalus is the bad guy. So here, let's go up here. Oh, he's calling Hercules. Toot doesn't do anything except that. He just toots. There's Hercules. Yeah.
I love that he's on a chariot. He looks like Superman. He looks like Superman.
They saved a lot of money on their budget by just using the Superman animations.
Here's Daedalus. This is Daedalus. He's the bad guy. So, all right. And Hercules wears a ring, which makes him super strong. So
I am Daedalus.
Anyways, that's the Mighty Hercules. I don't want to get you guys ding here.
This is Earthworm Jim. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Oh, I did see that. Oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
It started as a video game for Sega.
That's
big
awesome.
part of my childhood there.
Wow. Cool. So there we go.
Oh my God. Now I have like a whole cartoon series I need to go back and watch. It's classic.
You gotta watch it.
Great.
I started when I found them all on YouTube, I started watching them in bed before nodding off. But my wife told me I had to stop doing that.
Oh.
Damn it. Wives. They're the worst.
But I'll be honest with you though, in retrospect, after watching them again, after you've watched like 3 or 4 in a row, it's just wow, it's the same story.
Right.
60 different times. So
they had a formula and they stuck with it.
They stuck with it. And and it got me through high school. So there we go.
That's funny.
Yeah. So all that to say, don't buy Antiquities, kids.
It's a very roundabout way of going about it, but here we are. Don't buy really
we
old
are.
shit.
Yeah, don't
do that.
Don't go to fucking the Antiquities Roadshow and be like, I'm gonna buy that. Don't do it.
If someone comes out from an alley and is wearing a cloak, don't do it.
It'll give you cancer, and you'll die because you bought that one thing from like 1922 that's like has uranium glass in it, and you're like, it's so cool. But in truth, you're just radiating yourself. You're gonna die.
You're irradiating yourself.
Says I, who has uranium glass in the next room.
Do ya? Is it? It's infecting you.
It is
in the moment, isn't it?
Infecting my brain.
Yeah.
Maybe
I do have some uranium glass. I have some hand blown uranium glass from like 18 something and something because
oh wow.
Yeah, it is my great grandmother's calling card vase that they would have at the front of their
where people would put their cards,
their calling cards in.
Neato.
And then they would have
that's neato, man.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I
have very cool.
It's in the next room. It has a crack in it, and I'm very sad, so I'm like super protective about it. But like I don't want to do anything to like keep it from cracking. Like if it breaks all the way, I will puzzle it together with glue. But I don't want to touch it right now. So
I have this mug that I broke. You can see it's got a crack in it, and I've actually glued it back together. But I got this at one of my favorite conferences. It's from the fragments of
an unbelievable past.
Unbelievable past.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's cool.
But it's just a regular old coffee mug. But I used to drink from it, and then I broke it. And
it's usually how that works.
And that made me sad. Yeah.
I have a favorite mug too. It's my morning mug is my favorite.
So I had a couple of questions.
Yeah, man.
Let's go.
From the chat. First is Anton. Have you ever worked on any Coptic artifacts?
I have not. That tends to be kind of that tends to be out of my focus. So I mean, Coptic was around forever, but the Coptic, I mean the kind of stuff that intersects with what I do is basically when the early Christians started writing stuff in Coptic, which didn't take place until I think I don't even know, but this is like a couple hundred years after the period that I tend to deal with, which is Second Temple Jewish, which is basically anything from like 500 BC up to about 200 AD.
Yeah.
So sadly, no. Is there any archaeological evidence of the tower? So I guess it depends on what you think the tower is, because there is some speculation as to what the Tower of Babel is. I think it's Etemenenki. And yes, if I'm right, then I do believe that archaeologists know where that is and have excavated material from it. I'm not certain, but I think so. There have been other suggestions. I know Michael Jones, Inspiring Philosophy, has done a couple of times. He's talked about the Tower of Babel in his videos, and he likes to think that it's like one of the ziggurats in Eridu. And the reason for this is because the reason Inspiring Philosophy likes Eridu is because there's activity at this ziggurat over like a couple thousand years, but dates all the way back to like the early Bronze Age, right? So, see, am I thinking, these are stories that were written, in the Iron Age at the earliest. There was nothing right, in the Bronze Age. So, we don't
would be
push it
wrong. And he would be wrong.
Thanks, Pat.
All the confidence in the world. Thanks, Pat.
Right, man. So, yeah,
he did it. He did a video on the documentary hypothesis, and he was like, the documentary hypothesis is this is blah, blah, blah. He's like, and that's just one theory. Like, that is the overwhelming consensus majority among scholars theory. That's not just a theory. Maybe not overwhelming, but
well, I mean,
so let's.
when you're talking about a theory, when you're talking about a hypothesis, specifically a hypothesis, until it is completely tested or until it is completely disproven, you can't really say that there's no other theories unless you want to, fight that particular brick. That's always a tricky one. Well, like right now, as we speak right now, there is a debate amongst geologists as to whether or not, and I shit you not about this because I think the physics of it is interesting, don't get me wrong, but whether or not tectonic plates are moved by convection or moved by convection with like a pulling motion or a pushing motion.
Yeah, it was
you made
it this long without talking about rocks.
And I still
got to give her this. This is a huge accomplishment.
Okay. All right. It sounds impressive.
No, it's so stupid. No, it's so stupid. That's the whole point of it. Is like a pulling or a pushing motion. Like the variable is X no matter what. No matter.
Those are different motions.
So dumb. Like, why is this even an argument?
Yeah, I'm there. I've made it that far. I get that they're different things. That's about where I'm.
It's just stupid. Anyway, theories are difficult.
So, what are you going to say about theories, Dr. Kill?
So let's talk a little bit about the. Michael Jones made like 3 videos.
Yeah.
About the documentary hypothesis, and I watched all of them. And like, what's happening there? What's that?
So I think I already watched the first one.
Okay. So, what he's basically doing is he's talking about and he's pulling out all sorts of scholarly literature to do it. But like within Pentateuchal criticism has been around for like a couple hundred years now, right? Like Wellhausen's documentary hypothesis is not something that anybody holds to anymore at all. We've come a little bit since then. And there's a couple models, right? Like there's the documentary hypothesis basically suggests that there's 4 independent sources which were combined by a redactor to form the Pentateuch. That's it in just very basic broad outlines. There's something called the supplementary hypothesis, which says there was a kernel that was expanded in various directions and in various points in history to basically become the Pentateuch. There's something called the 2-source theory, which says, well, there's material that was in the northern kingdom and there's written material that was in the southern kingdom, and they, after the Assyrian invasion and the destruction of the northern kingdom, when all the Jews moved to the south, which was in the 8th century, this stuff got combined. So, there's a variety of theories, but one thing
is the documentary hypothesis. Real quick,
this is basically the documentary hypothesis. So, and if you pull up the diagram, I can just very briefly explain what's going on here. So,
make it bigger real quick.
Oh, you gotta do that.
You gotta save it and then open it.
Yeah.
And why won't it move? There we go.
There you go. All right. So, early oral and written sources prior to basically the 10th century. The 10th century is sort of the target date there where the monarchy, as we recognize it, basically began with David and Solomon, if those were even actual people. I like to think that David was, but that's because the selfish part of me just thinks it's such an amazing story, and it helps to enliven lots of the text within the Hebrew Bible in such a way that is way more boring if he wasn't a real person. But anyways,
I agree with you.
So nice, thanks, man.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, you've got two sources, the Yahweh source and the Elohim source, which are basically identified by the two uses, the differences between how God is identified either as Yahweh or as Elohim. It's a little bit more complicated than that. I kind of prefer Richard Elliott Freeman's take, which is that the Elohim source is the one in which Yahweh only self-identifies after Exodus 3, after his encounter with Moses.
Because he's called Yahweh a few times in Genesis, but it's not him calling himself that.
Yeah, or other people saying the name Yahweh, right?
Yeah.
But this is directly contradictory with Genesis 4, is 4:17, I think, which belongs to the Yahweh source, which basically says it was at the time of Enosh when people began to call on the name of Yahweh. So that's kind of the difference between them. But there are significant and it's more than just this name. Like there are significant differences in terminology that's used between the two sources. There is maybe most notably the god of I'll get to that. That comes later. One of the things that's kind of interesting is that in the Elohim source, there's like dreams and there's visions, and there's prophets, which don't appear in J. So there's kind of there's differences. At some point during the reign of Hezekiah, maybe J and E are combined, and then a short time later, the book of the core, not the book of Deuteronomy as we have it now, but like the core material of the book of Deuteronomy, which is the code of Deuteronomy, and then like the song of Moses, which appears in chapter 32 and 33, and a couple of other little elements in there. That is written, and the reason it's written is to legitimize the religious reforms that King Josiah wants to undertake. And this takes place in like the 640s when Josiah is the king in Judah. So the book of Deuteronomy is written at about that time. P is basically the book of Leviticus, but then also this large redactional layer that we see interspersed all throughout the Pentateuch. And here's where there's a rather stark difference between the presentation of God in P compared to what you see in J and E. In J and E, God or Yahweh is much more anthropomorphic. He takes the form. These are where the theophanies all come from. A theophany is an appearance of Yahweh. The most famous one maybe is in Genesis chapter 18. Is it 18 or 19? When Yahweh and three visitors basically come to see Abraham just before they go and demolish Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I like the way I illustrate it I've done videos about the documentary hypothesis. So the way I illustrate this difference is by looking at two versions of what I think is something like the same story about the banishment of Hagar. Hagar was Sarah's maidservant that Abraham took as a concubine.
Right.
In the J story, Hagar is banished because Sarah is jealous of her, because Hagar gives birth to Ishmael, who is Abraham's firstborn son. So in the first story, Sarah says, "Get rid of Hagar," and so Abraham says, "Okay, here, take this satchel of water and get out." And Hagar leaves, and then she comes to a well, and it literally says in the story that God met her at the well. Like, this is the way the story goes. It's like a face-to-face encounter. It's like God was walking around and he ran into Hagar at the well. But this is very much like this is how God appears in these early materials. In the creation story, in chapter 2, he gets in the dirt and actually molds the man out of clay, right? But it's totally different. Yeah, he wrestles with Jacob, exactly. In P, God is like transcendent. He's a voice from heaven. In Genesis chapter 1, he literally speaks everything into existence. And in this story of the banishment of Hagar, which comes from P, the parallel, Hagar is sent away, and she cries out to God, and it says that a voice came from heaven and spoke to her. So this is one of these tangible differences that we can see in the material that suggests to scholars, yeah, there's like different sources at work here. So, and then at some point after the exile, they were all put together. They were combined into the Pentateuch as we have it today. So that's the documentary hypothesis, but there's other ways to go about this. The bottom line, though, is that in virtually every theory is what I would say is a source theory. And what I mean by that is that scholars are agreed that the Pentateuch was comprised of all sorts of different literature that came from all sorts of different places, and that there are numerous places throughout the text where these sources, this source material, can't be reconciled. Like, there are clear contradictions in the presentation of God, in the presentation of the priesthood, in the sacred artifacts, in just basic elements of the story that you can't reconcile, but that have been reconciled. So yeah. So I was going to say this about Michael Jones's video. I think what he tends to do is he repeats himself several times throughout the 3 videos. He's like, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that the Bible, that there's not source material in the Pentateuch. And I'm not saying that Moses wrote the Pentateuch. But then what he does do is he basically detracts away from the strong points of the source theories, as if to imply that the Pentateuch was a unified whole from the start, right? Yeah. So so he sets so much attention on and that's one of the things that kind of annoys me, is the way that apologists will often attack the documentary hypothesis and the other source theories, is to say, look at the whole Pentateuch and look at the various parts and how well they work together. And how, there's this common theme that runs through all these different sources. And there's this, well, I mean, the redactors weren't stupid, right?
Yeah.
When they put the whole thing together,
these people knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing. So of course they're making a text that makes sense. And they're putting it together in such a way, and they're making changes to it in an effort to provide a continuity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. his style is like he'll do all this research, and he'll like pack every like source he finds and do like a bird shot, and then loads into a shotgun and blasts it on the wall, and then like plays connect the dots. And is like, aha, see this line I made right here? This is
he throws the spaghetti at the wall.
You're ignoring all this other shit.
Yeah.
That's all over the rest of the wall.
Yeah.
It's cherry picking, I believe it's called. Anyway.
There is a lot of cherry picking. There definitely is. So
he made a video responding to me on TikTok.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
About what?
I duetted one of Andrew Seidel's videos, and where he said Christianity is fertile breeding ground for nationalism, something like that. I can't remember exactly. So he came and was like, "Are you serious? This guy says this guy says that." And tries to bring on, and he gave me like 5 different sources, and I actually went through all of them, like a screenshot of them. Like 2 of them, like Nat, you actually gave me one because 2 of them you had to pay for. Yeah. And I was like, Nat, do you have access to it? Or no, it was Imus.
Yeah.
Imus gave me.
Yeah, Imus gave it to you. I looked to see if I had it, and I did not.
Yeah. So I looked at them, and they were like the sketchiest studies you could ever find. My favorite one was they took 3 Christians and 3 atheists, not chosen at random, chosen, because when you do surveys and studies like this, it's very important you pay attention to the way they're worded. If it says they were chosen, that means they were chosen on purpose. They were hand selected. If it says chosen at random, then they're chosen random. But these guys were hand selected, 3 Christians and 3 atheists, and then they were like, they did some survey or whatever. Turns out the Christians knew more about the Bible than the atheists, or the Christians were more. And then right after that, this is like a 2-part study. He said they studied the works. I'm not making this up. It's going to sound made up. It's not. They studied the works of C.S. Lewis and determined that his writings after he became a Christian were more sophisticated than they were before he became a Christian. Right. I was like, because he became Christian in his 30s, and you get better at writing over time. That's your evidence? He was a better writing when he had more experience than he was when he was just starting out? Really?
I would like the sample size to get larger, please. Could you please expand that out to the entire human race that is literate and capable of writing, and let me know if they get better in time? Because I feel like
man.
I went through all that, and I pointed that out in my video response, and I was like, I cannot believe you used this study. I really
can't do this. You're too much.
That is
that just makes me think about how absurd it is whenever I used to watch Kirk Cameron talk about being a 17-year-old hardcore atheist.
So
I can't believe I got his autograph.
Oh man, can I tell a Kirk Cameron story?
Please do.
Yeah, man.
I'm always down to listen to
that. When I was in high school, junior high school, how old would I have been? Probably like 14, 15 years old. And Growing Pains was like the biggest show on TV, or one of them. Like, it was huge.
Huge.
I had a friend.
Sorry.
Huge. So I had a friend from church who had a friend that lived in Southern California. I don't remember how they met, this friend of mine and this friend of hers in Southern California, but they would write back and forth to each other all the time. And this girl who lived in Southern California knew Kirk Cameron and was like, was like a churchy girl. She was like a Christian. This is how my friend and she, I'm sure this is what part of where that connection came from. But I remember, like, I was pretty starstruck by the fact that I had a friend who had a friend that was good friends with Kirk Cameron, right?
Man.
Totally. That's only 3 degrees of separation.
That's
not bad.
That's not nothing,
right? It's not nothing.
It's not nothing.
So, she used to talk about this, and people would be like, "Oh," they'd ask questions about Kirk Cameron because,
oh my God,
here's a person who knows Kirk Cameron.
Nat, get Charles.
And no, that's no.
He's not.
That's James Cameron.
I'm a few buildings away from him at the moment. I can't quite get him. I'm not at the office at the moment, and I know that's where he is.
Well, tomorrow's a work day, so.
Wow.
Anyway.
James Cameron is a Canadian. Did you know that?
It's the source of
makes
power.
sense. He blows a shit ton of money on a liberal agenda TV show.
You mean that tree hugger?
That goddamn tree hugger video.
Keep going.
3 parts.
So there's, we used to glean as much information as we possibly could about Kirk Cameron. And I distinctly remember this, that one of the things, we thought this was so cool, that her friend used to talk to Kirk Cameron about the gospel. And so, years later, after Kirk Cameron becomes, an obnoxious apologist, and you see him tell, when you watch him deliver his testimony, he'll always say, I had this friend who was a Christian, and basically through her, constant badgering, I became a Christian. And
she was the one?
I think she's the one.
I've heard him tell that story a few times.
I think I know someone who knows
like
that
I know
person.
Kirk Cameron.
So yeah, but that's it. That's my Kirk Cameron stuff.
Yeah,
that's all I've got.
I got his and Ray Comfort's autograph at a convention.
You were a fan? You were a fan?
I was a fan
of the Way of the Master.
I did the Way of the Master street evangelism thing. That's what I did on my Saturdays. I did the whole spiel. So by your own admission, you're a lying, thieving, adulterer, blasphemer at heart, and you're going to stand before God on Judgment Day. Yeah, I can recite that shit by heart.
Oh, Brock, I gotta tell you this. This is the thing that just bugs the hell out of me every time I hear Ray Comfort do his stupid spiel. When he asks, okay, there are many things, but this is one thing. I was like, oh my God, how much I wish I could go through this with Ray Comfort, because at one point he goes, have you ever used the Lord's name in vain?
Mm-hmm.
And my response would be no.
Yeah.
And nobody uses
knows
the Lord's name in vain, because the Lord's name is Yahweh.
And nobody knows how to pronounce it anymore.
No. I'm like, it's the stupidest thing.
Yeah, so. but Jesus. But Jesus.
Oh man. Yeah, like exactly. I like him because like he's a likable guy. Like he's charismatic. Right. He's funny. Like he's he's a likable guy. But once you see through the bullshit, you're like, fuck this guy.
Did you got his autograph? Did you get to interact with him at all?
No, it was like a line after the thing.
Yeah. Oh, it was like a Comic-Con, but for Christians.
Yeah. I didn't have to pay for it though, so that was good.
I also
got the Barlaw Girls autograph.
You got
who?
The Barlaw Girls. They're
I don't know what that is.
Christian chick rock band like Super Chick or
what year? So this was probably like the aughts.
Early 2000s.
Yeah.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I think I stopped listening to. Well, no, I confess there are still a couple of Christian bands that I still listen to, and they still make content. There's a
Katy Perry.
Is she a Christian?
She started out as a Christian singer.
Yeah, but she's not but she's not in the industry, right?
No.
So, but I have to say, I kind of like the heavy metal, right?
Demon Hunter.
Yeah, they're pretty good. The one that I really, really like is one actually I didn't even start listening to until after I deconverted. There's a band called Theocracy.
Yes.
Oh,
familiar.
It is epic. It's so good.
Well, I got to write that down now.
And I actually, I've used some of their music in some of my videos.
Really?
I think in some of those videos that I did, those early ones that I did, about inspiring philosophy. I think I used them for an outro in the first one.
Interesting.
Something that they did, and maybe the third one. I don't remember, but they all those videos that were like demonetized because I've got great taste in music.
Yeah,
And
that's usually how
you
that
know, I
works.
can't do anything for free. So
That's one thing
I
about
wholeheartedly
like
believe you on that.
that's the thing
Partly
about
because
Christian.
T-shirts you wear. Every time you're on here, you have a really cool ass T-shirt on. I'm like, I have to know what you're wearing. Every time.
there we go.
I was gonna say, you didn't have, it wasn't AC. I think it was a Led Zeppelin T-shirt the first time.
No, I don't have a Led Zeppelin T-shirt.
Not Led Zeppelin. Who was it?
I have Iron Maiden T-shirts.
Might have been Iron Maiden. That sounds about right.
I have
okay.
I have Amorphous T-shirts.
I like Amorphous.
Concert shirts.
It was not Amorphous. I would remember that one.
Oh, so
it might have been Iron Maiden. I think it was Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
it was one of the classics. Like putting that in quotes.
I have Caveller Talk T-shirts. You probably don't know that one.
Mm-mm.
Do you know Caveller Talk?
I feel like I do, but I have to remember which songs I know from them.
They're a band from southern Norway.
Ooh.
You should look them up. They're really
I'm being educated. I'm writing things down. Caveller Talks.
Everything pre-Splid. Splid was their last. I don't even know if they changed lead singers before Splid, and I tried. I really tried, but one of the I'll plug this. I'll show this.
What's the spelling?
So Caveller Talk. Here, I'll show you.
Oh, I put a B in. I was like,
so if I'll share my screen and I'll show you what I'm talking about here.
I found it.
Did you? So that's right.
Yeah, okay, I'm adding them.
It's killer. So here, I'll bring my screen back.
Bring my screen back.
So this album, oh Jesus. Sorry.
So pre-2020, before they lost their
head. This album.
Do they have they have an album that's called Natty's Fjord?
Oh, this album! Oh my God!
What, are you buying it right now because it's like cheap?
No. This album is let's pull up the images here.
Are we talking about this one, Natty's Fjord, or whatever it's called?
Yep, that's what it's
this one. Yeah. So this album, people need to listen to this album because this album.
I'm claiming it now. It has my name.
Is something else.
It has my name.
It does.
I'm adding it
especially
to my Spotify.
Undisputably.
You need to, and I'll say it's a killer album. And the best song
listen to it as I fall asleep
on that album is Berserker.
Berserker? Ooh.
Damn, what was the name of it again? N-A-T-T?
Natisferd.
Natisferd. N-A-T-T-E. There's no I. S-Ferd.
F-E-R-D.
There it is.
And the name of the band is Caveller Talk. K-V-E-L-E-R-T-A-K.
I spelled it right the first time. I was really surprised.
Good job. It's a Norwegian word. And it means
spelled the way it sounds.
It means like strangling. So
hey Charles, you want to jam out tomorrow after work to the album? Only if you want. It's fine.
I think that's one advantage that like Christian metal bands have that like other genres of Christian music don't have, is they have more creative expression and artistic freedom because you can scream. And the rule is just don't say Jesus. Don't say the name Jesus in your lyrics and you're good. Like, so I feel like they can pull that off much better than other
because genres. Nobody can tell, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. You're right. So that's true. That's true. But I was I will say this as well. I'm still a big fan of these guys. I was a huge, and I don't think they get the credit they deserve. But there's a Christian band called Believer. which was they're a thrash, like a thrash heavy metal band. But the music, it just like from a technical standpoint, it's mind bending stuff. They did a on their was it their second or third album, they actually did they have a song on there called Dies Irae. The name of the album is Sanity Obscure, and I've used Believer music in my videos too. You know, the video I did with Dr. Josh about inspiring philosophy and plagiarism.
Yeah.
So the intro music to that's from this album. That's from Sanity Obscure by Believer. But on that album they did a song called Dies Irae, which I believe is Latin for the Day of Wrath. And it's opera. So, and then they thrash out to it. It's pretty great. So, and then after that album, in the next album, which was called Dimensions, the last 3 songs are like a 3-act heavy metal opera, complete with electric violins.
That's
it's so
awesome.
cool. It's so cool. Oh yeah, you got to check it out. It's
I'm curious.
I have been given homework by the doctor.
I used to play the electric violin. I'm curious.
Did you really?
I was never very good.
Like a heavy metal band?
No. I played it for a church band.
A church band? Wow.
I played mostly bass, and I wanted to try something different, so I picked up the electric violin for a while. Yeah. And played it a few times, and then never touched it again. Like, I played it in the band. I got decent enough with it. I could play it at a worship, but which doesn't take much.
You look like you're kind of I have a confession to make. I am not.
Oh God.
I'm not musical, which is why I'm haranguing my brother to put together music for me all the time, because he's a music teacher. But cool. I'm not musical. I had piano lessons when I was a kid, and it made me cry. I had a traumatic experience with the piano.
I had tears as well with multiple instruments that I learned, and
see, was it because my parents, they everybody took piano lessons.
Yeah,
everybody did. Like, it was something you did, right?
Right.
And my mom would sit there beside me on the piano bench, and I would have to go through the song that I was assigned. You have to do so you can stop. And I would, if I made a mistake, I would be a bar from the end of the song. And if I made a mistake, she would put her hand on and she's like, "Stop, do it again from the top." And I'd be crying.
That sounds so. I have been there.
Oh yes.
So I played.
But I have to.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna. I gotta know, Brock. Did you play in a band? Were you in a band?
Just in the worship band at church.
Just in worship band. Oh, okay. Oh,
there's a bass.
Hey, do you still play it?
Every now and then.
I sold all of my instruments when I left college, like all of them. So.
Did you try them all? Did you play all the instruments?
I played a lot of instruments.
Did you?
Yeah.
In college?
I did 4 years of piano. I played the cello for 14 years. I played flute for like 8 years. I did percussion for about 8 years. Wow. And let's see, what else have I done? I played sax for 2 years. I did I did like drum majorette, like conducting for a while. Like, I had to do all of the things. And then I learned the viola, and I learned the violin, and I learned the bass, but I liked the cello more, so I kept it with that one.
Nice.
Just kind of kept coming across like garage sales with string instruments, and Mom was like, "You want to try a banjo?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's try a banjo."
Oh, hey. Nice.
Did not ever actually learn how to play the banjo. Could not find a teacher, and then when I finally got rid of the banjo, I found a teacher, and I was like, "Well, missed that one."
Yeah, once you learn one instrument, like it's easier to pick more up.
Yeah.
Like I did clarinet and acoustic guitar and the violin, the bass, a little bit of keyboard.
I played the trumpet in school band, and I quite liked that.
I made fun of the trumpets all the time.
You make fun of the trumpets? Yeah.
All the time.
My buddy had a saxophone in the band, and he actually just left it with me for a few weeks, and I fiddled around on that and played that too. And that was pretty cool, but yeah.
I was told I had to be in swing band because there weren't enough people. And there was only like a drum set, so I couldn't do percussion, and flutes aren't exactly in swing band. So I had to learn something else. So I literally learned the sax in like 3 weeks and then started playing. And,
nice. Oh no. Jimothy's Music says, as a horn player, I can confirm trumpet players deserve mockery.
Accurate.
Oh.
Come on, you got 3 buttons. How hard can it be?
3 buttons. So I gave my brother's music teacher, so I gave him my trumpet.
Right.
And yeah, I think the last time I was at his house, he doesn't live in the same city I do, so it's been a few years. But the last time I was at his house, I pulled it out, like my old trumpet, which is now his trumpet, and it's amazing when you stop playing your embouchure.
Mm-hmm.
When you put the trumpet mouthpiece back up to your lips and you start playing, it's like, oh my god, this is the weirdest feeling ever. This doesn't work.
That buzzing starts to hurt.
Oh my god. Yeah.
That's always like weird.
I did what so in band, I remember this one time in band class. I turned my flute into a flute trombone.
And you were sliding that
fit inside the flute, and I just used the mouthpiece, and I actually played my entire song doing it this way. And nice. my teacher at the time was just like, "You hit every note damn near perfectly. If you learn that, you want to do that on a stage and everything." And so I was like, sure. So I played prom flute for like one
so
concert,
cool.
One song and one concert, because they were just like, we're going to talk about the mathematic equations about like extending and coming back and like using half motions and like quarter motions to make sound.
Very cool.
Notes. So yeah.
Very cool.
Anyway, and it was literally because I was just fucking around with my friends. His trombone. I took my flute and I was like,
hey, I could do that.
Do they fit? They do. Okay, I shall do that.
I was so truth be told, I feel like in retrospect, I feel like I was, and I mean, you didn't grow up evangelical, did you, Natty?
Me? No. Not evangelical. Yeah. I was raised Methodist, but I started questioning things really young.
Yeah.
And kind of just annoyed the shit out of the people around me until I finally got permission to leave the church, because my mom was just like, I can't take you anywhere. And I was like, okay.
But I'm guessing, like, I suspect Brock's upbringing is probably a lot closer to mine, and maybe you can kind of.
I mean, I went through the whole like getting confirmed, like going through confirmation.
Yeah.
Like, I did like the 6 months of like every like I don't know, every 2 days out of the week to get confirmed, and I just pissed my pastor off every day. Like, I don't know, I didn't want to go.
That's like a whole level. That's like
that's a whole thing, like
thing, right?
I mean, I didn't want to go because I knew I'd get yelled at, and my mom didn't want me to get yelled at, so she told me to keep my mouth shut, which doesn't work. So
so, but I there's, when I look back on my childhood, I had a great childhood. But I can see in retrospect that it was filled with all sorts of like unnecessary religious pressures and subtle elements of abuse, right? And I played the trumpet. I enjoyed playing the trumpet in high school band, but I only played the trumpet because my dad was a trombone player. and my brother played something called a euphonium, which is like a miniature tuba,
it's
right?
not a tuba, it's a euphonium.
No,
it's not a tuba.
It's not a tuba, okay.
Had to.
So my dad played the trombone. My brother played the euphonium. My dad wanted to put together a brass trio.
Oh.
So there was pressure.
And perform in church. And so I think
obligated.
like there was an obligation. There was, it's not like my dad was like, you need to play the trumpet, right? Yeah. It was more like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to be in this, to be in this brass ensemble vision that my dad has, and what could I play to be in the brass ensemble, and right? So in retrospect, I wonder about like how much of that was my own, like, did I play the trumpet because I really wanted to play the trumpet, or did I play the trumpet because secretly I just wanted to be in the church brass ensemble with my dad and my brother.
Did that ever come to fruition? Did you guys actually play?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not very often.
If it never happened, I was gonna be like, you were such a disappointment to your dad. You ruined his dreams.
No.
A euphonium.
My dad's great.
Literally,
he turned 80 this year.
The big trumpet or the big tubas, like euphonium, like has like a rectangle-y type feel, and you hold
Google
it, and then you go.
Yeah.
And it comes out.
Google it.
Euphonium.
But,
all right. Well, we are past the 2-hour mark.
We are. This is true.
I am super ready for bed. So
I should go to bed. I have an exam in 2 days, so I just need to go study for that.
I have the day off tomorrow, so I'm gonna go eat because I'm hungry, and then I enjoyed the Battle of Alberta yesterday, and that means there's no hockey. The Flames don't play again until Tuesday.
I have found that I am absolutely craving a hockey game so much now. I moved to North Carolina, and now I don't have hockey nearby. I don't have anything.
Where you're in North Carolina and you don't have hockey. Where did you were in the Midwest, right?
I was in the Midwest, but I at least had the Blues. Like I could watch the Blues. Oh, yeah. They were available. And obviously they did really well like 2 years back. Like that was great. And it was fun having a winning team. But I'm not near anyone. I think the closest one would be like is it Tennessee Twisters? No, what are they?
There's a team in Carolina. It's in Raleigh, I think. How far away are you from Raleigh?
Yeah,
which Carolina is that?
6 hours. I'm 6 hours away.
See, I think that's
I'm
that's
closer
the
to Tennessee.
one.
I'm only an hour from Tennessee.
Oh yeah. So Nashville has a team. How far away from
5 hours?
Oh well. Okay. Right. Okay, you're right there in the middle. So I will just say this. Calgary's gonna be good
Hurricanes. That's what we have. The Carolina Hurricanes. That no one
they're gonna be good this year
Carolina
too.
Will want to go to with me.
Wow. You should do what you can, Nat, because they're gonna be good this year.
The Hurricanes are? Is it because
yes, they are. No, they're gonna be good.
Oh,
they're really gonna be good. And so the Flames are gonna be good this year, people. They're going to be better than the Oilers. They are. They are.
It's not hard.
You laugh, but it's true. It's true. You guys watch. The Flames are going places. They are going places. So.
All right. Yeah, On that note, thank you everybody for joining the show.
Yes, One Witch Lady. The Leafs will once again disappoint. Sorry.
Oh, God. I'm not going to get this over with.
Sorry.
Thanks everyone for joining the show. Thank you, Dr. Kipp, for joining us. This was very fun.
Anytime, man.
It's always nice to have you.
I love it. I love your show. So when Brock asked me this morning, I was like, oh yeah.
I asked him at the last minute. I was supposed to have Oz on. He had to reschedule till next week, so we're gonna have him on next week. And I was like, shit, I need a guest. And I was like, let's see if Dr. Kipp is. And he was like, yeah. I was like, really? I was surprised.
Hey, were you going to have Oz on to talk about his album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't listened to it. Is it good?
I haven't yet.
is.
I was going to today, but I was studying. I was being good.
It's surprisingly good. Like I've had friends like make albums before and be like, "Hey, you should listen."
Yeah,
to it.
yeah.
I'm like, that's good, buddy. No, this is like professional quality. It sounds fucking,
That's
especially
awesome.
the first.
Oz knows his stuff around.
The very
around
first
equipment.
song
He's
is
good
like
about that.
heavier.
No.
Yeah,
And if anyone in this area that watches Nerds and Heresy, I'm in the North Carolina area. I will be going to the Fiber Festival on Saturday. If anyone wants to come and say
The
hi.
Fiber Festival.
Hell yeah!
What
We're gonna have and wool.
Wow.
I'm gonna have so much fun. I'm gonna
a bunch
have so
of
much
raisins
fun.
or something to be there.
Say what?
The Fiber Festival is it gonna have like a lot of raisins or something?
Oh no, it's not. It's not the old Fiber Festival. It's
raisins
like
high in fiber.
See,
no,
I
that's
was
prunes and Fiber Festival. This is just the Fiber Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Okay. Anyway,
And
thanks, guys.
enjoy the Fiber
Love
Festival.
y'all.
Good
Have
night,
a wonderful
everyone.
night, and we'll see y'all next week. Goddamn.